cursed and glorified. Today we're going to look at the cursed. So next week we're going to look at both, but today we're going to key more in on the cursed. Next week, more glorified. So let me just jump out and just read two scriptures for you, two passages, Matthew chapter 21, verses 18 and 19. Early in the morning, see, already left me out right there. Early in the morning, as Jesus was on his way back to the city, he was going back to Jerusalem. So we're going to look at all of this. So let's just get our context on the same lane. He was going back to Jerusalem. He was hungry. See, now I bear witness with him. Seeing a fig tree by the road, he sees a fig tree. He went up to it, but he found nothing on it except leaves. Then he said to it, may you never bear fruit again. And immediately the tree withered. So let's read Mark's version of this same story. Mark chapter 11, verses 12 and 14. On the following day, so this is him coming out of Jerusalem, and he's went to Bethany, and now he's coming out of Bethany. I'm going to show you this timeline in just a second, and he's going back to Jerusalem, and a lot is going on right here. So a lot is always going on with Jesus. But on the following day, when he came from Bethany, he was hungry. So my kind of guy. So, and seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf. So we get a little bit more out of Mark than we did out of Matthew's gospel. We find out that it's in leaf and it's green. So he went to see if he could find anything on it. And when he came to it, he found nothing but leaves again, for it was not the season for figs. And we'll look at that too. And he said to it, may no one ever eat fruit from you again. And his disciples heard it. So we find the same story, just, a few details, altered just a hair or added as they interpreted or as they saw. And then we find basically the bones of this message is he cursed the fig tree. So I want you to notice something. This is the only time Jesus spoke death rather than life. This is the only time. And let me show you what he didn't do. He didn't speak death into a life of someone. He spoke it into the life of an object. So this is a hallelujah moment right here. Thank God that he is not speaking death into us for things that we mess up. So, for days and weeks and months and years of unfruitfulness, thank the Lord that I'm getting a whipping rather than a death curse. So let's look at 5 key players. We're not going to, I'm not going to bore you with key points. I'm going to bore you with key players. So they're called key players. So if we're telling a story, there's always a key, there's always some of seriously, if you get a chance and you go watch, Nemo Jr., you'll find that there are some key players in it, and you'll recognize some of those key players. So at the Playhouse, by the way, it's on their website. So anyway, let's look at 5 key players. Number one key player is the fig tree. The fig tree. So the fig tree represents Israel. When God is giving, when the word is always telling of the fig tree, it's normally speaking of Israel. Israel represents God's people. So it's not just a name. It's not just a location, not just a building, so to speak. It is literally God's people. And today, we are God's people. So trying to bring this home, trying to get us to help us understand the fig tree is God's people. Now let's visit key player number 2, Jerusalem. Jerusalem for us today represents our city. See, the thing is if you notice, Jesus had to get out of Jerusalem because, there's just a lot goes on in the city. He had to go to his Bethany. And so you're going to hear all of this. I dare you to come back on Wednesdays. You'll hear all of this building upon a timeline of Jesus's, the last week of Jesus, or his earthly life. So today, Jerusalem represents our city. So here's the thing. Let's look at what Jesus was enduring. Let's look at what we have to endure. See, our city's a place of merchants. We have to be able to buy and sell. We have to, everybody has to go to Walmart and get everything. It's like, so you have to go. It's a place of merchants. You go to the city square, it's a place of merchants. It's a place where Christians are. It's a place where churches are. It's a place where broken people are. There's brokenness in the city. It's a place where non-Christians are also. Non-Christians also are in the city, in our Jerusalem. So our city may be, I mean, let's just call them the cities of the Upper Cumberland, because, we have, some of us live in Cookeville, McMinnville, Sparta, Smithville. Some of us live in Livingston. Some of us live, Baxter. It's our city. And our city is our Jerusalem. And it's not always a pretty place. And it's not always full of people telling you everything you want to hear. It's not always full of everybody doing exactly the thing that they should be doing. It has non-Christians in it also. It's a place where people are infused with themselves. We're just focused on us. We're focused on monetary gain. We're going to make a living. We got to make a living. Evil is even in the city. We're of this world, but we're in this world, but not of this world. It's a place where we want sometimes to just kick over tables and whip people. Seriously. We would just love to kick over tables and whip people. It's a place we want to be. It's our city. We want to be here, but it's also a place we have to escape from to get somewhere else. We have to go to our Bethany. And sometimes, you know what? This is our Bethany. Sometimes we have to escape. We have to get in here, and we just have to go here and just pray and just, Lord, let me get out of my way. So number three player in this story is the fruit. Fruit is what is expected from the life that is within. So if you like say right now I have this, I have some nursery plants, and I'm, got some stuff propagated, and you don't do a lot of it in the wintertime. I have some in greenhouses, so no frost is getting on them, and it gets a lot warmer in there. And I have stuff just sprouting like crazy. It just, I see green coming out everywhere. See, I see life. I see evidence of life. But see, we had that really, really cold stretch of days, and then we had another one reinforced right behind that back in January. And I'm concerned about, I have about a couple of hundred plants that I'm not sure they're going to make it. So I'm waiting to see if I see any life, any evidence of life. You know what the evidence of life is? It's what we see, the green. We see the green. We see the evidence of life. Fruit is what is expected from that life that is within us. Fruit is the reason that the plant exists to start with. There can be no reproduction without the fruit, which produces the seed. So there can be no reproduction. So we got to keep this in mind. The fruit is very, very important. So the fourth player is the curse. So see, it's so cool when I give you all the key points in the beginning. So the fourth key player is the curse. See, contrary to what you think, contrary to what we have been taught by the the big screen and the small screen, is that people cannot put a curse on you. They don't have that kind of power. You say, well, they put a curse on me. No, they didn't put a curse on you. And I know that we've grown up in the world of Disney, and and everything's magical and everybody has a wand. People can't put curses on you. No one has that power. Again, here is the thing. The curse is what we bring on ourselves. It's what we allow. It's that nobody can put a curse on you, but you can allow their words to be in you. And so the curse that is in us, we allow it in, and then all of a sudden, all we can remember is what she said to me. My mother told me I would never amount to anything, and I can't get past what she told me. My father used to beat me. I can't get past the mentality of that. See, the curse is when we become more merchant and less compassion. See, we're all about the merchant. The curse is when we become more leaf and less fruit. The curse is when I must increase rather than Jesus increasing. See, this is what the curse looks like, and we're the ones that bring it, accept it, and fuel it, and cultivate it. So the fifth player is death. Death is what happens when something remains in fruitlessness. So when we remain in fruitlessness, death is going to follow. See, it's the remaining of the curse that we create. Without seed, again, a generation will cease to exist. Without seed, that generation is not going to happen. So now let's look at Jesus, and let's look at the fig tree. As we look at this, Jesus taught with parables using the fig tree. He prophesied about the last days using the fig tree. He actually encountered the stories that we read, and he cursed the fig tree. So here's the bad thing, is all references I see to the fig tree mention its demise or its destruction. One place, at the end, when Jesus is giving us, this is what the signs that you can look for in the end is when the fig tree begins to start having life in it again. So that's the only time I see life coming back, and it's at the end of everything. So Jesus wanted something from the fig tree. Now we have to visit this and wonder why. Jesus wanted something from the fig tree that it just wasn't able to give. He went to the fig tree out of season and wanted fruit from it, but it wasn't the time for fruit. See, like I said, I have plants. I have hostas coming up. They're coming out of the ground, and they'll be ready for me to put on Facebook Marketplace and sell before long. They're coming out of the ground. They're not going to produce fruit. Well, they don't anyway. But they're, if you have a tree that's just now starting to get some life on it, it's not time for that. It's time to see green, but it's not time to see fruit. And it was clearly the spring or the summer because we see that it was in foliage. And we know this, but why? So we're going to visit this in just a minute. So let's break down the timeline. And this is in the Gospels, in both Gospels, as a matter of fact, the two that we read. I want to show you the timeline of what's going on. If we see the context and we see the story, we won't take out of context what's happening. So Jesus comes into Jerusalem triumphantly. So this is the good day. This is the day of all days that Jesus deserved, and he finally got it. And in my opinion, he's like he was fulfilling scriptures like, y'all have no idea what you're doing. But anyway, Jesus comes in. He's riding on the donkey. They're throwing their cloaks before him. They're breaking branches and laying before him. They're giving him a king's entrance. So on his noble steed. So he rides in to Jerusalem triumphantly. He goes from there to the temple, and he sees merchants. So, we've read the story. So he sees merchants. He sees people really taking advantage of people shopping, people, in other words, it's just a marketplace. He doesn't do anything. He walks out of Jerusalem. He goes to Bethany. And the next morning he leaves Bethany. He sees the fig tree. It's green. It's in foliage. And he curses it. Then he leaves there, enters back into Jerusalem, and he turns over tables, and he's smacking dealers around. And you notice that in 2024 they're dealers. So I met my dealer. I've been clean for a year. I've been clean for a whole year, and I met my dealer selling Girl Scout cookies out in front of Walmart. I'm telling you, they'll come back to you. They'll cycle back around. So Jesus is whipping dealers, and he's whipping merchants, and he drives them out. So this is what this is what we see. This is the course of the night, the night before Bethany, coming back out, going back into Jerusalem. Here's the thing: Jesus was deliberate. He was deliberate. He had malice. He was premeditated. He left Jerusalem the night before and returned the next morning. He cursed the fig tree, but during the night he took the time to make a whip. He constructed a whip. He was deliberate. He deliberately cursed the fig tree. It wasn't by happenstance. Oh, by the way, he was deliberate. He's making a point. He's making a point, and he leaves there with his constructed whip to begin to turn over tables and whip merchants. He's not getting brownie points on this day. Yesterday he was all that. Today he's, people are ready to, do him in. So foliage is an outward sign of an inward life. We looked at that. Fruit is the outward product of that inward life. So if we're going to be alive in Jesus, then fruit is going to show whether we're alive or not. We're not going to judge whether you're walking with the Lord, but fruit will tell whether we are. So Jesus cursed the thing that appeared alive, but actually had no fruit. Jesus was visibly upset when he left Jerusalem. So I want to show you this. And you say, and then he got so upset he took it out on an innocent tree. So we're going to visit that in just a second. But why would Jesus be so upset? Why would he be so upset? Why would he speak cursing to the tree? Why would he go in and just go all postal on people in the temple? See, here's the thing. The last thing that he saw, this is my version. I'm not saying that I found this anywhere. This is what I think. I think the last thing that he saw leaving Jerusalem was a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. I think the next morning what he saw in the tree was a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. Jesus cursed the fig tree for its fruitlessness, but he whipped the people for their fruitlessness. See, again, I am really glad that God does not get these two confused. I'm really happy that I don't get cursed, I get whipped. I mean, I'm really glad that, let's just say, you say, what does a whipping look like? When, let's just say, I want to use something simple. I want to use something that can bring a curse on our lives. Let's say that God is telling you to give the tithe that belongs to him, and you don't. That's inviting a curse because we're robbing God. So we don't do that. And when we get that conviction, that's him whipping us. Thank the Lord he didn't strike us dead because we didn't. Thank the Lord. Hey, it took me 2.5 weeks to pay my tithe because I'm trying to get it set up on the app, and I can't do it fast enough. The thing's impatient. I can't do it fast enough. So now I got to set up a different account. So I'm like, okay, I'll just go get some more checks and write a check. So I'm, thankful I didn't get cursed for that. You know what? The Lord whipped me a couple of times and said, don't forget that doesn't belong to you. So whipping is a form of training. See, I'll show you what this looks like. My stepdad, Andre, he passed away last year, and he loved this story. He told it like he was there. He never was there. Right over here, I was a kid. I vaguely remember it, but I was going to run across the street and meet my dad, and he was at Manual Officer's store right there where the park is. And Mom pulls over, I get out, and I'm running out in traffic, and I get the living daylights beat out of me right there. So, I mean, you know what the thing is when Jesus whips us, it's to try to get our attention. Jesus was saying, hey, I'm trying to get your attention in the temple. This is not what the temple is made for. And stop trying to treat it as such. So it's a form of training. Thank God we get whipped and not cursed. See, whipping is meant to get our attention so we don't do the same thing again and make the same mistake twice. In cursing the fig tree, Jesus was exempling. He was showing what fruitlessness looks like. So let me show you what fruitlessness looks like. It looks like rebellion, because rebellion is trying to circumvent the whipping. Rebellion is rejecting the words of life and failure to submit to change. This is what rebellion is. 1 Samuel chapter 15, 23, just that very first portion. Hey, rebellion is just like sin of witchcraft. Divination, as ESV says, it's witchcraft. So in other words, it is sin for us to be rebellious toward the words that are instructive toward us. So I want to show you something. This is. I just want to bring this kind of into a context that we can kind of wrap our minds around. If we begin to start compromising our walk, then we can kind of see what happens. I'll give you an example of this. Moses leads a whole nation out of Egyptian bondage. They couldn't get the mentality of Egypt out of their minds, so that generation died in the desert, and then all of a sudden we have a generation that knows nothing but dependence upon the Lord. Joshua takes them into the land, and they know nothing but conquer, conquer, conquer. Follow Jesus, follow the Lord, go hard after him. Caleb's 85 years old, says, give me my mountain. I don't care if it does have giants in it. I want it. It's mine. And so at 85 years old, as far as we know, he killed all of them. So the thing is then we see Joshua saying, you can choose in Joshua chapter 24, you can choose which gods you want to serve, gods of your fathers, little gods. But as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. And the next generation served the Lord. The next generation was back into bondage. See, if we don't watch it, I'm going to show you what this looks like. At the ending of the Old Testament to the beginning of the New Testament, it's what's called 400 years of silence. Just a silent period. Why? Because there's no word from the Lord. There's nothing going on. God's not doing anything that is recorded. He may have been doing something everywhere, but it's not recorded. There's nothing recorded in this time frame. 400 years. What breaks that silence is Jesus being born. So during this time, we have Jesus being born. Now Jesus is in his 30s, and we have a generation that is still living in the culture of silence. So they're still living in this place of silence. So after 400 years of silence, Jesus is beginning, and you notice that Jesus is getting rejected all the time. Jesus is getting kind of knocked around, banged around, beat up a little bit. Jesus is getting this constant after 400 years because somebody in that 400-year period, did they get weary in well-doing? Galatians chapter 6, verse 9, did they get weary in well-doing? Did they go hard with, in conquer mode in the mentality of Joshua, but started to wane after we don't even remember the stories? So let me just kind of show you what it looks like. What if somebody became weary in that 400 years of righteousness, serving the Lord? We want we just want to be close to Jesus, close to the Lord. We just want to be close to the Lord. But then after about a generation or two, you know what? I'm just not so sure that I'm just tired of doing this. I don't hear anything from the Lord. I'm just tired. I'm growing weary here. And you know what happens when we grow weary? We start cutting corners. We start making, if Jesus says, I need you to do it this way, well, we may start doing it this way because, is it really going to matter? I'm not hearing anything anyway. And then the next generation, all they know to build upon is what that generation left them to build upon. And the next thing you know, one compromise leads to another compromise. One weariness becomes double weariness for the next generation. At some point during this 400-year period, did somebody just quit? Did somebody just quit because they became so overwhelmed, so tired I'm tired of being the righteous one all the time. I'm tired of chasing after the Lord. I'm tired of being the one that stands before the Lord. I'm tired of being the one that gets beat up constantly because the world is going away from the Lord and I'm the only one standing. So sometimes we just feel like we're just worn down. And when we grow weary of doing it God's way, we'll start doing it our way. And when we start doing it our way, it's always going to be an easier version. Because we don't, we were just down here talking about working out a few minutes ago. I have a theory about working out. I think the weights are too heavy. And I used to be a runner, and I would love to run now if we could do it slower. I mean, we want to automatically easy it. So in the process of time, did they just forget? In their weariness, did they forget how to produce fruit? I mean, think about it. This is why in Galatians chapter 6, verse 9, Paul reminds us of the importance, because let me explain something to you. It's always about the harvest. Don't grow weary in well-doing, because in due season, in other words, it's coming. It may not be when you want it. It's not going to be when you want it to be. But if we don't give up, then we'll see fruit being produced. But the enemy will really want you and I to quit right before that time comes. So let me just visit this season thing real quick and show you something. There's a season for harvest if we don't quit. Jesus was not being unreasonable. He was not being, hard to get along with or with the fig tree in Mark chapter 11. He wasn't being unreasonable. When we lose sight of Christ, then there is no season. This is my challenge to you. I'm using this tree as an example of what's happening in the temple. You say, but it wasn't a season for fruit, but yet he cursed the tree because it wasn't in season. In that temple, they should be fruitful constantly. When we walk out these doors, we should be in fruitfulness constantly. We should walk into the marketplace, which is called wherever we go, Publix or Walmart or all these, wherever we want to go, or to my daughter's shop to get some stuff done, or to Halo, wherever you want to go, whatever marketplace we go into, we should be fruitful in that. We should be, hey, this is who I am. I'm a child of the King, and I'm not growing weary well doing, because I'm about to see something. And I'm expected to see the fruits for the harvest. So let me tell you something else. This is what I have learned about fig trees. Fig trees, when they sprout their leaves, they also sprout their seed. So when you see the leaf, you also see the baby fruit. It's not ripe yet. It's not the season, but it has fruit on it. And Jesus was saying, look, I don't even see a sign. So this was an outward sign of what was going on in that temple. And you should be in season constantly, in season and out of season. You should be in season. And this thing got cursed because of it. So Jesus cursed a tree that had the appearance of godliness, but it denying the power thereof. 2 Timothy 3:5. So let's bring this teaching into 2024. I'm just going to give you a challenge here. You can go on Amazon. I don't know if you know anything about Amazon. It's a new thing. You can go on Amazon and you can buy a lab coat and a stethoscope. It's not going to make you a doctor. It's just not going to. You know, Tina and I, we like to, to get on our motorcycle and can't answer the phone, get out of town, quit talking to people. So I walked into a restaurant, it's been like 20 years ago, walked into a restaurant, local restaurant here. It's not even there anymore. And there's a dude in there and he has full motorcycle attire on. I mean, he has like a $300 motorcycle jacket with the belt. I'm talking, dude, that's expensive. You know what? I don't have one of those. Yeah, and I do now. But anyway, he's got these chaps on. I mean, he's got a do-rag on. I'm looking at this dude, and he looks good. And I'm like, dude, have you started riding? I didn't know you rode. He's like, no, I just like the clothes. I mean, he seriously said that. And I'm like, well, most of the people we ride with, we don't look like that. We just got to look like us, you know. He goes, no, I just like the clothes. And I'm like, just because you dress like a biker doesn't mean you own one. Just because I can go buy a coat, a lab coat and a stethoscope, and I can put it around they don't wear it like this. They wear it around. So when Dr. L comes in, sits down with you, crosses his legs and tells you you're healthy, but you need to lose a little weight. He's not my favorite that day. But anyway, what happens is he's got the stethoscope. He's a doctor. He looks like one and he is one. I can't be one. I can only look like one. Wearing a Jesus suit doesn't make us a Christian. See, we can put on a good Jesus suit and talk a good game, man. I call it the Jesus suit, man. We can put on a Jesus suit. See, wearing a cross and speak around our neck and speaking scripture may have an appearance of godliness, but is it producing fruit? To look like life may fool some people, but I'm going to tell you, if it doesn't produce fruit, it's not going to fool Jesus. That fig tree fooled everybody but Jesus. They didn't think twice about that fig tree. See, in a vineyard, every plant and tree is expected to produce. If the church is a vineyard with this mentality, in John chapter 15, Jesus calls himself the true vine and his Father is the vine dresser. And Jesus, they're not going to tolerate fake life, because he tells us every branch that does not produce fruit will be cut down and thrown into the fire, where there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So in other words, this is what it's connected and it's got life to it. But if it's not producing fruit, you know what? There's a reason why we cut the suckers off stuff. All it's doing is pulling energy that's not needed. So we're cutting suckers off. And look, live branches get thrown in the fire just like dead branches do. Just they're not producing fruit. So in other words, a dead branch doesn't produce fruit, and a live branch that doesn't produce fruit, is it any more alive? It's just pulling unnecessary energy from the plant. Jesus is not going to tolerate fake life. And he says, look, that life and that mentality is under a curse, and you're the one that did it. See, because we see that there's no season of fruitfulness. Luke chapter 13, Jesus gives a parable about the fig tree. And, he says a vineyard owner came and is after 3 years, this fig tree hadn't produced any fruit. And he tells the vine dresser, he says, the laborer, he says, dig it up or cut it. He says, cut it down, get rid of it. And this is what he says. Give me one more year. You've had 3 years of unproductiveness, but if you'll give me one more year, I want to dig around it. I want to put some manure, because compost happens. I'm going to put some manure in there, and that's what he says. And I'm going to try to bring it back to life. I'm going to try to get it energetic so it can produce. Do you realize that Jesus is saying, just give me one more season, Lord. Just give me one more opportunity. I want so badly to see fruit in those branches. Just give me one more opportunity. In verses 8 and 9 of that chapter 13 parable in Luke, the vine dresser was more focused on restoring the unfaithful than he was in destroying it. Sometimes it's easier to destroy than it is to restore. When Jesus spoke of the fig tree in Matthew chapter 24, this is that prophecy. When he spoke of the fig tree, this is what he said. Basically, time's running out, people. Time's running out. Just be aware. Watch and listen. In John chapter 15, the word abide, which means stay connected, which means don't go anywhere. It's in the ESV. The ESV says abide. The word abide is in the 10 times in just a few verses, 10 times. Over and over and over. Don't get disconnected. Stay connected. He says, apart from me, you can do nothing. Branches that fail to produce will be destroyed. Stay connected to the vine. Stay connected to Jesus. Disconnection is the curse that we embrace. I mean, think about it. Disconnection. I'm just going to disconnect myself from Jesus. Trust me, we have this conversation from time to time in our home, in ministry, in leading. We have this conversation. You know what? It'd be easier just to quit. It'd be easier to quit, just do something different. You know what? It's like my friend says, when you're down and out and the pizza guy comes to your door and you look at him and you think, I could do that, you're pretty worn down. I'll never forget him saying that. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're right. Sometimes like, I could do that. That I think his outfit would fit me. See, stay connected, because when we disconnect, we are embracing the curse. We're allowing it in. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions. Question number 1, are your words right now, are they fruitful or fruitless? Right now, what we're speaking into people's lives, what we're saying to people, is it bearing fruit or is it destroying the branch? What are we saying? What are we speaking? Because you know what? I can do it fast. I can get there real quick. On just, this is ridiculous. You know what? Just forget it all. I can get there fast. So let me ask you again, right now, is it fruitless or fruitful? Are your words uniting or dividing? Are your words spoken in offense or are they spoken in love? Because our words are the external evidence that we are either living or dying. This is what we're seeing. It's an external evidence of what's going on inside. Trust me, our words are going to tell off on us. It's going to tell everything, because we just do that. Dead branches, remember, aren't the only branches thrown in the fire. Also, green ones are thrown in there that are not producing. Question number 2, do you need a whipping? I want to ask you this. I asked myself this when I put it together. Do I need a whipping? Let me just ask it, just in case you may get confused. Do you need a whooping? No, you're like, oh, I know what. So, do we need a whipping or a whooping? It don't matter. Because, I'll never forget. My dad smoked cigarettes, put them in that ashtray. I've never smoked in my life, but one day I was standing there. My little brother just takes one up, just starts smoking it. He was about this big. He got a whooping. But see, the thing is, Dad did it. Why can't I do it? He just picked it up. None of us ever smoked, but we saw him do it. See, do I need a whipping? Do I need something do I need Jesus to say something in me that's going to get my attention? Do I need to listen to that still small voice? Do I need to listen to that conviction in my heart that says, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't? You know what? Because God's never going to tell you to do something wrong. So should I or shouldn't I? Do you need a whipping? Because if you do, it's awesome, because it's proof that you're not cursed and you're not dead. Because Jesus isn't going to waste his time to get the attention of something that is dead. So thank the Lord that he is speaking to us. Yes, I need to get my attitude better. Yes, I need to get my commitment to my relationship with him better. Yes, I need to be more of this. Yes, I need to put my name down to volunteer for this. I need to be more focused on him and less focused on me. I need to get out of the merchant mentality and into the Jesus mentality. I am not going to be this tree or those merchants. I'm going to be a child of the King. So as we kind of land the plane, I just want to tell you, Life Alert. If you've ever heard that Life Alert saves one life every 11 minutes. It's a thing that you can put around your neck and you can push a button that says, "Help, I've fallen, I can't get up." Jamie Hood's grandmother, gosh, they loved it. Ma, I kept calling her Granny. She's 86 years old. Back in the back by the creek, cleaning up, throwing branches over into the creek. She falls 8-10 feet straight down, and she lands on a rock, and just thank the Lord that the water, it wasn't one of those, where the water was up, because it gets up quickly up there because it's at the head of the stream. So she's laying on this cold rock. She's broken herself up, broken ribs. She can't speak. She can't say anything. She would have laid there and died if it hadn't been for a Life Alert. She hit the Life Alert and somebody found her. And we would have lost her. Well, we wouldn't have lost her. We'd have graduated her, but we'd have been without her. And who wants to do that prematurely? So 86 years old, and she falls off of a bluff. But she's recovering. She's getting better. Here's the thing. This is a Life Alert. This is a Life Alert, and we're pushing the button right now. We've got to respond to what Jesus is saying. We need to hear what Jesus is saying. It's a Life Alert. Time is running out. The button is being pushed. Come save me. We are pushing your button for you. I'm telling you. Let me tell you something. That choking you feel around your neck is us. We've got the Life Alert pulled around the backside, and we're hitting as hard as we can. Because I want you to be saved. I want you to know Jesus, because time is running out and you're going to die if we don't. I want us to be fruitful, not fruitless. So I want you to stand with me, please. And I want you to know that there is an opportunity for us to know the Lord. There is an opportunity for us to walk in victory. We're not meant to walk in defeat. We're meant to walk in victory. And I woke up yesterday morning and the Holy Spirit is telling me stuff about next week's sermon. And I'm like, oh, Lord, let me get this in there fast before I end up messing it up. And I'm not going to give it away, but I want to so badly, because let's hit the Life Alert with everything we have. And let's know that listen, if I am not being fruitful at this point in time, then you and I can be. We just got to get our hearts before the Lord. Lord, create in me a pure heart, O Lord, and renew in me a right spirit. What made the difference between David and Saul? Saul just rejected any of that fruitfulness. And David said, hey, I'm messed up. Come in and fix me. So with your heads bowed and your eyes closed, we've hit the Life Alert for you. I'm going to ask you to know Jesus. I want to ask you to hunger for him. I want to ask you, let's accept and receive the whipping and love on it, embrace it, because you know what? It's going to make us whole. So I want to ask you to pray a sinner's prayer with me. I want to ask you to pray a prayer that says, Lord, come into my heart. So I'm going to ask you to do that right now with our heads bowed and our eyes closed. Pray this out loud. Follow after me. Dear Jesus, I invite you into my heart to forgive me of my sins. I accept salvation that you gave freely on the cross, conquered the grave to provide for me. I want to be a child of the King. I repent of my sins. I confess my sins to you. And I receive your salvation that only comes from you and is free. And I am connected. I am a child of the King. I am fruitful. In your name I pray. Amen.